What is going on, guys? Nathan here with another Magic the Gathering video. In this video, I wanted to cover the changes I've made to my deck since I last uploaded a video actually about Magic the Gathering. And as you can see here, in my last video I was talking about how I had some red cards coming in so that I could form a red support deck to support my green base deck. And those actually did come in, and I've assembled this, and we'll go over this in just a second. But other than forming this red support, I've actually changed a decent amount of both my green base and my white support, mostly with creatures. I've removed a lot of the variety of my big creatures in my green base, and I've made my white support more early game. But yeah, I just wanted to go over the stuff with you and see what you guys think. And yeah, all right. So I actually do think for this video I'm going to go over like each individual card, kind of explain why I have it and why I decided to include it in my deck, because I had to do a lot of filtering out in my last sort of deck editing / creation session. Pretty much one of the most fun aspects of Magic is formulating your own deck. So if we start off here with my green base, this is made up of 45 cards with 16 lands, so 16 forests. And then, so the way this works is that I'll run a green base, and then so far I have a white and a red support. So always have the green base in there, but I'll always play with either one of these two. So these are about 20 cards. So it's actually 20 cards including the land. So there's 16 land there, and then however many cards right here. So this forms, I think, 45 cards, I want to say. And then there's 8 land in each of these colors, which means that there is 12 of these cards if I took the time to count, but I'm not going to count because I'm recording a video. But anyway, the point here is that I'm running a 65 card deck no matter what color I'm playing. So I tightened that up from the 73 card deck that I was playing with before. So like I said, I had to do a lot of filtering. But let's go ahead and start off with the green base that I have here. So my high mana cost creatures I've kind of condensed. Oh, and by the way, this is high mana cost creatures, low mana cost creatures, mana ramp, and then these are various miscellaneous support spells. So I filtered out a lot of the variety that I had before, and I'll just kind of go over each individual card. I got rid of my Worldspine Worm because I figured it's one of those exotic cards, kind of like
my highest cost card in this deck right now, Palaka Worm. I got rid of the super high cost cards. They're too situational to actually be used in like a useful setting. But I did actually keep my Palaka Worm here because I figured for a 7 cost 7/7 that's decently efficient. It has trample, which is always nice, and I also gain a 7 life when this actually enters the field. So it could be a good savior if I'm running low on health in the late game. And also when this thing dies, I draw a card. So not bad, not a bad card. I would like to find a better card in the future to actually replace this, because although this is good, it's not. I don't know. There's something about this card that just makes me think that it should be replaced. I was thinking about running Colonian. I think it's called Colonian Twin Grove in place of this card, which is a 6 cost, and I'm not sure if that would be a better substitution, but for now, I'm leaving the Palaka Worm in my main deck. So then we move on to Wolfir Silverheart, which is one of my favorite cards, one of my favorite creatures. It's like top 3 creatures in the entire game, because this is basically an 8/8 as long as I have another creature on the board, which is pretty awesome. So not only is it basically an 8/8 for 5, which is incredibly efficient, but it also buffs up another target creature to have +4/+4. So if I, for example, had a Vorapede on the board and I threw down my Wolfir Silverheart, then this is all of a sudden a 9/8 creature, just for simply having the Silverheart on the board, and that is incredible. Oh, and by the way, I'll actually go over this card. So I'm running 3 Vorapedes at the moment, which is this card shown on the camera right there. And the reason I ran it is simply because it's undying, to be quite honest. You can kill it once, but then it comes back with a +1/+1 counter on it, so it goes from a 6/5 once it's actually killed. Or I mean, it becomes a 6/5 once it's actually killed, which I think is amazing. And that's actually for a 5 cost. So not only is it undying, but it also has trample too, which is, I think, just an awesome just an awesome like feature. Like I love trample. Trample is my favorite ability in this entire game. But yeah, super awesome card, Undying. So I'm running 3 of them. And we'll get rid of these 3 so that we can move on to my favorite card in the entire game, Terra Stomper. I'm running 4 of these. So it's an 8/8 for 6, incredibly efficient card, and it can't be countered, and it has trample. So I just absolutely love this card, and I'm running 4 of them because I can definitely afford a 6 mana cost consistently throughout a lot of games. So if I can get multiple of these guys on the field, and especially if I happen to buff them up with a few giant growths that I have over there, that is suddenly a very, very deadly combination. But the problem is actually getting to the point where I can actually afford those 6 mana costs. Yeah, it's nice to not be countered too if I'm facing a blue deck, because those counter spells can be really, really pesky. So it's nice to have, you know, a sort of backup. Some cards that for sure can't be countered. All right, then we move on to the early game creature cards here, and by early game I mean kind of early game, because I think the cheapest out of these is a 3 cost, so that's not a very low cost for a creature. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But this is Yeva, Nature's Herald, a legendary. She has Flash, and she gives me the ability to cast green creatures during other people's turns. Now, I am not a good enough Magic player, in all honesty, to actually think of a situation where I could use that ability. I mean, unless I wanted to like block a creature if somebody's attacking or somebody, and I happen to have a huge, ridiculous creature in my hand or something. But I'm mainly running her because she's a 4/4 for 4, and I figured, you know, good card, whatever. Then we have the Great Sable Stag, which is my 3 cost. This is my lowest cost creature card in the game, or in this deck, I mean. And it's a 3/3 for 3, so decent efficiency. It can't be countered, and it has protection from blue and black. So, very defensive-oriented creature. And if I happen to get it out on the board pretty early, like a 3 power is actually not bad, you know. So, then we got the I'm running 2 of these actually. Tree of Redemption, like my second favorite card in the entire game. If I happen to get this out early, I will pretty much be unkillable because nothing can overcome a 13 toughness. And if I happen to play this late game and I happen to be running low on life, I can actually go ahead and swap life and toughness with this creature. And it's all for a 4 cost, which is why I absolutely love this card. It's all for just 4 mana. So that's great. And if a huge creature, for example, was attacking this, I could actually, like, if I had this on the board and let's say like a Terra Stomper, which is an 8/8, I could defend with this instead of defending with my Terra Stomper, which would possibly kill it. So yeah, just absolutely love Tree of Redemption. You just can't beat that ridiculous toughness. 13 toughness. That's insane. So the changes, not many changes honestly into my low cost creatures, but like I said, there was a lot of change with my high cost creatures and a lot of change actually with my mana ramp. So I've largely taken away the variety of my mana ramp as well. I'll just go ahead and go over these. So I'm running a Magus of the Vineyard, which I can't remember in my last video if I had included in the deck, but for a time I actually took this card out of my deck because I felt like I could substitute that card with a card that would actually aid me only with more mana ramp, but I figured, you know, it just gives so much mana for having just a 1 cost that even if it helps out other players with this 2 extra force in their mana pool, honestly, me being green, I can use that mana a lot more effectively than other people can, I feel. So I just threw that back in there. For a 1 cost, it's kind of really good. Actually, this is a super good early game card because if I went ahead and played this on like my first turn, for example, this thing actually can get me to some of these 6 cost or like 5, 6, 7 cost cards on turn 3 or 4. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. And that's just simply by playing this card and without any other mana ramp. Then we got Sky Shroud Claim, which is a pretty high cost mana ramp card. I basically just play 2 lands onto the board. I believe tapped. Let me see this. Is it put them into play? Oh, they're actually untapped. So very high cost mana ramp card. I decided to keep this just because it's so good. If I needed more mana in the mid to late game kind of, but this I'm not really sure if I like the really high cost mana ramp cards. And I mean, a 4 cost isn't super high, but it's compared to a lot of the other stuff I'm running, it's decently high. And then Market Festival, I go ahead and throw this on a land, and I get two more actual mana added to my mana pool by tapping that land. So definitely a good card. This is just another one of those high cost cards. So I felt like I should at least have some sort of representation of the late game in my mana ramp. But other than that, a lot of these are all 3 different cards. So we have just a rampant growth. I'm running two of these, rampant growths. Cannot talk today. So I go ahead and basically just play a basic land card. Pretty basic mana ramp, to be honest. And that's for a 2 cost too. So not super efficient. Like for example, Kodama's Reach, which I'm running 3 of. This is more efficient. But I still wanted to run this 2 cost card because I figured if anything I'll need something. If I'm not drawing land well on like turn 2 or turn 3, I can go ahead and play the Rampant Growth to at least keep myself going in terms of playing mana. Other than that, Kodama's Reach I like because I get 2 land for a 3 cost. So I get one on the field, one in my hand. Definitely not a bad card, and I can't believe that's actually common. That's a really good card. Let's see, 2 more here. And then we've got 2 Elvish Mystics, which this guy is just he's basically a land. So I've actually ordered 2 more of him, and I think I'm going to run 1 more of him actually in this deck because it's really nice having if I happen to have this guy on like turn 1 or turn 2, he is just very easy. It's really nice to get 1 mana up on my opponent after like turn 1 or turn 2. So I've played a lot of games where this is like my first guy on the field, and he then accelerates me to play some of the larger guys. So I'm running 2 of him, and yeah, and then we move on to the support cards. Oops. So we've got a Giant Growth here. Running 3 of these. This is just basic green, just buffing on my creatures +3/+3. I do actually, in my intro deck, I was given 3 Titanic Growths, and that's a +4/+4 for 2. So the +4/+4 is obviously better, but for half the mana cost, this card is better because it gives a +3/+3. So like I said, I'm running 3 of those because it's always nice to have extra buffs. And for 1 mana, like I will always have 1 mana available for use. So that's definitely a good card. Go ahead and put those on the stack there. We've got a Tablet of the Guilds, which actually is really good for life regen because so this card, I choose 2 colors, and every time I play a spell that is one of those 2 colors, I gain a life. So this is pretty freaking great because I only ever play with a dual color deck. So this is basically like once I have this card on the field, any sort of spell, like anything at all, well besides land, I think, gives me a life, and that's a lifesaver basically. Like literally, that is a lifesaver that will definitely keep me alive if I happen to be taking a lot of like red aggro, for example. And then here we've got a Revive. This is just a basic return from graveyard to hand card. So just a decent card there. It is a sorcery, so I cannot cast it on my opponent's turn. Which, I mean, I don't know why I would, but I felt that it's worth mentioning. It is a 2 cost, so I think that'll be worth it if I have like a really good card that I want to get into my hand against that I can play. So that's my basic green deck. So a lot of the variety was removed from it. I kind of refined its role more. So I think I actually included more mana, one or two more mana ramp, and then I actually took away like one or two of my actually more higher cost creatures, so that I have more confidence now that I can get into those higher cost creatures by just having more mana on the field and in my hand. But yeah, so the changes I've made to this white deck is not very noticeable, to be honest. I've still got a Divine Verdict, just a murder spell right there, for a 4 cost. So I don't know if I'll ever actually have the mana left over on any given turn to use this, but I felt that it's useful anyway. We've got Rootborn Defenses, the creatures that I control are indestructible, always useful. Raise the Alarm is just 2 basic white soldier tokens on the field. I figured those are always useful for chump blocking, and I'm running 2 of those. Oresco Sun Guide. Honestly, I'm only running this card because it's early game. It's an early game card, low cost. It's a 2/2 for 2, and whenever it becomes untapped, I gain 2 life. But the thing is, I don't think I'm ever going to actually attack with this creature unless it's on like turn 1 or turn 2, when the opponent actually doesn't have any creatures to block. Because it's a 2/2 and it will get destroyed immediately, so I don't see this untapping very often. But it is a decent early game card, so I threw it in there anyway. We've got Kinsbale Skirmisher, which is another just really nice early game creature, 2/2 for 2, can't really argue with that. And then he puts a +1/+1 counter on something, so that's not bad as well. And I think you can actually target himself, so this could actually be a 3/3 for the end of the turn. Oh, excuse me, but I don't know why I would actually want to do that, being he can attack when he's placed on the battlefield. Indomitable Ancients is a very good card. For a 4 cost, it's a 2/10, and it's not even a defender, so this thing can technically actually attack. Tree of Redemption is... this card is basically a worse version of Tree of Redemption, but it's definitely useful nonetheless because it's a 2/10, and it can actually... I mean, it is nice that this can actually attack. So, I don't know. 2 damage is not a lot, but I don't know. Whatever. Aegis Angel. This is classic card. Still running this. Never even took this out of my deck. It's a 5/5 for 6, and it's flying, but it also gives a creature I control indestructible, which is amazing. Huge fan of this card. Always going to run this card in whatever white deck I ever fabricate or whatever, create, whatever. And then Loxodon Smiter. I actually ordered 2 of these cards. This is a 4/4 for 3. So super efficient card, and it can't be countered. So this guy is just a really solid card, somebody I can really rely on. And then if I would happen to discard Loxodon Smiter, I would put it on the battlefield. That ability I don't think is going to be used very often, but it's useful nonetheless. I just really like how it's super efficient, how it's a 4/4 for 3. It's pretty amazing. Advent of the Worm gives, I believe, a 5/5 token for 4. So might start going against a blue deck if he would happen to have a return to hand spell, but still gives a 5/5 token for 4. That's pretty dang solid. And then Armada Worm is a 5/5, and I believe it puts another 5/5 on the field, and that is all for 6 mana. So very, very awesome card. Actually a mythic, now that I notice it. I thought this was a rare, but I don't know. And then, so yeah, that's my white support. So what I did to it was I basically made it more early game focused. I took out, I think, a couple of the instants and sorceries I had before, and Yeah, I think I actually had to shorten this up. So I didn't really replace anything because I wanted to lessen the amount of cards that are actually going to be in my deck. And now we move on to the red support deck here. This is entirely burn spells. There is not a single creature in this entire collection of cards. So we've got Devil's Play, which is a very good, well, not really very good, but it's useful late game because I can spend any mana that I want and send it directly to somebody's face. The thing is, if you were to actually compare this to some other cards I have, such as Lightning Bolt, if I were to spend, okay, so let's say I wanted to do 3 damage with this card, I would need to spend 4 mana on it. So that's 3 damage to the person's face for 4 mana. Compared to Lightning Bolt, which is right there, which deals 3 damage for 1 mana. Okay, so 3 damage for 4 mana, 3 damage for 1 mana. But like I said, the usefulness of this is actually how I can spend any number of mana I want. So if I'm pretty solid on creatures and I just want to expedite the ending of a game, then I will basically just spend all my mana on this card and send it directly to somebody's face. So I've got 2 of those. I have 4 Incinerates. Incinerate, let's see if I actually look at this here. Incinerate deals 3 damage to target creature or player, and it can't be regenerated, which is, I think, why it's a 2 cost instead of a 1 cost. I love dealing 3 damage for only 1 cost, but it's really useful that that damage can't be regenerated because you can combo this with a couple of other creature attacks to remove some really pesky, tough creatures out there. And I have 4 of them, so that's always useful. 2 Lightning Bolts here in this deck, which, like I said before, is just a basic deal 3 damage for a 1 cost. So that's pretty basic. Lava Spike is basically the same thing, like same ability. It deals 3 damage for a 1 cost, except that I am running 4 of those, and that's actually the last of this red support. Running 4 Lava Spikes, so actually 6 cards in total that deals 3 damage to a player for a 1 cost. So, like I said, that, like, I literally made all of this to be burn spells, because that is pretty awesome how red can go ahead and do that. And yeah, so I think overall, what I've encountered running my green and red support together is that I end up not having a lot of mana left over to cast some of these, but I have found these to be useful for some early game damage to either a player or like they're really weak creatures, like a 2/2 that they might throw out for 2 mana. I can go ahead and use one of these and just kill it, so that it's not really a threat anymore. So these are more like, obviously red is very offensive oriented, but these can be very defensive as well. If I want to go ahead and chain together a couple of these actually to take out a particularly pesky creature. So this in combination with my red deck, obviously just a crap ton of aggro. But I do want to mess around with my white support in combination with my green base, because I haven't had the opportunity to play some of these higher cost white cards or white combination cards, such as like Armada Worm. Like, this is just an insanely good card, and I want to be able to play that someday. But I think playing my white support in combination with my green base deck it is a lot safer, because there's some lower cost creatures in here, and there's a couple of flying creatures, I think, maybe like 1 or 2, I don't know. But overall, I think this is just a lot more safer than possibly wasting mana on these burn spells. So I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, so running my green base with the mana and then one of these colors equates to a 65 card deck, which is obviously more than the average 60 card deck, but it's still, not as much as like a 70 or like a 75 card deck. So yeah, I think I'll pretty much wrap up the video here. Tell me what you guys think down in the description below. I don't follow any sort of competitive Magic, like any sort of like tournaments or anything, so I honestly have no idea what a good, like a quote unquote good deck would look like that like a pro player might use. But what I have here I think will be solid for the purposes that I intend to use it for. And yeah, so yeah, I think I'll wrap it up here. So thank you all for watching. As always, feel free to leave a rating on the video, and feel free to subscribe if you enjoy my sort of content, and I'll see you guys later.